I'm Pastor Jonathan, and you're watching the Bi-vocational Ministry channel. Hello, I'm Pastor Jonathan. I just want to take a few minutes with you. I did some reviews of the Modern English Version Bible, and seems to be a lot of interest gaining in that Bible translation, but not only the Bible translation itself, but the manuscripts that make up that translation, the Textus Receptus and Masoretic text. And over the years, I've been kind of on a quest to find the Bible that I would use, and I've been blessed by many. Some I've used more than others, and I want to take some time and kind of talk to you about the options that TR advocates have in Bible translations. And so let me go ahead and do that. I want to go through a few different translations that I've used and own that and give you a little tidbit about the translation and kind of pique your interest if you want to do some more research. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of information, but hopefully enough to kind of let you know that they're out there. First off is the King James Version. If you're going to go Textus Receptus, Masoretic text, King James Version, you can't beat it. This is the Faith Partners giant print, the old time gospel hour King James Bible. So I used this when I was down in Kentucky for the church that I was youth minister at to preach from, because the print's huge. Anyway, but the King James, obviously the Bible that has been used for over 400 years now, that God has really blessed the using of it. A lot of people stick to this. Of course, this is the 1769 update. This isn't the 1611 update version of it. But if you're a King James guy, then and if it works for you, great. So be it. That's fine. And but that's obviously the starting point. You start with the King James. Let me put that to the side here. Not much to say with that. Now I want to talk to you about one that I had to do some research and digging to find. I think they're located in South Dakota, and it's the 21st century King James. I'm going to show you a couple different options here. The 21st century King James. And this is the blue. It's like a navy blue. It's got silver gilding, and it actually retains the text type of King James. Now, what it doesn't do is it actually removes all the italicized words in King James that they would put in italics that they added for clarity, and they actually just make that in blend with the rest of the text, so you don't actually see those words italicized. But what it does do is it's technically the King James with all the outdated words updated, but it retains the these and the thous and the eths and the ests. It retains that language. So if you like that language, if you like the King James language, you just struggle understanding the King James, this might be a good option. This is actually growing. The people there are wonderful. What my experience is of it is it retains a lot of the King James language. It just replaces the words that clearly are archaic, and it replaces them with modern equivalents. In fact, they sent a book with it that talked about a traditional translation style compared to modern translation style. They said that King James was a traditional translation style anyway, and that they stuck to it. So to give you an example, in Deuteronomy 27, it says, "It shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God." Very King James English. So if you like that and you just kind of want the archaic words kind of updated to where they're not archaic, to where it's clearly understandable, this really is a good option. So I got the blue. I think it comes in blue, maroon, and black. So here's the blue version of it. Here's the black version of it with the gold gilding. You can see the size. I mean, it's probably about 6 by 9, but it's got some thickness to it. Good option if you're switching from the King James, trying to find something a little more, just a very minor update of the King James. So there's that one. Now, the next one we'll show you is actually a King James, but they update the thys and the thous. So that one updated some of the archaic language, but left the thys and thous. This one updates the thys and thous and the ests and the eths and all that, but then retains the rest of the King James. And then, and here I pulled out, this is the KJVER. And I bought this one. I really like this Bible. I got my sister one. She loves it. because it reads right along with the King James. It is the King James. They've just updated certain words to where it's easier to understand. And then they left some of the words that still are archaic, but they're there. And what they did with that was they underlined them, and then they put a modern equivalent down in the marginal note, or down at the end of the verse. They would put a modern equivalent. Let me see. Let's see. I'm in near the beginning. Here's the page of word changes that it says. I want to put this up to the camera. Hopefully you can read this. It says word change. No word of doctrine has been changed, but this shows the kind of changes they made. I'll read a few to you. Like the beginning, it says abhorrest is now abhor. Abhorreth is now abhors. Abideth is now abides. Abodest is now abode. Aboundeth is now abounds. Acceptest is now accept. Do you see what I'm saying? They just updated the tenses of it. So believest is believe. Believeth is believes. Belongest is belongs. Bereaveth is now bereaves. I mean, so they even left bishopric is still bishopric, just spelled differently. Biteth is now bites. Declineth is decline. Committest is commit. Madest is made. Imagineth is imagines. Proveth is proves. Hadst is now had. Now as a halteth or halts is now limps. So they did change that one a little bit. And so basically they give you this list of word changes they did to tell you, hey, this is exactly what we changed. And you can go through that list, and I really don't think you're going to find anything there of significant change. In fact, I mean, it reads so much like King James, I probably could use it, and my congregation, those who use King James, probably wouldn't even notice, except that I'm updating the these and thous in it, and some of the language. But again, just to kind of show you the print, this is a genuine leather Bible, by the way. Genuine leather. So it's a KJVER. You can actually get this on christianbook.com, and I'm not sure where else, but that's where I found it. In fact, I found it at a Christian bookstore, then looked there. But it's basically the King James, just with certain things updated. They have a video on YouTube if you look it up of what they did. And I think they still do this. If you buy a copy of this, they will actually send a copy to someone who can't afford it, in another country or something. And one interesting thing about this, what I like, this is the study Bible, and if you see those red lines, that talks about different doctrines and what those passages deal with. And then in the center of the Bible, between the Old and New Testaments, not really center, it says Marginal Note Study Guide, and it gives you all those notes and what they really mean, how you can study it. And then one thing I also thought was interesting is in the Old Testament, when the Lord speaks, it's red. It's red letter all throughout the Bible. When the Lord speaks, it's red. When they presume he's speaking, they went ahead and made that red. And then in the back, they have a whole resource library of study helps and all that. Some of it's defending the King James or the text related to it. Some of it's discussing some other things. It's Treasury of Biblical Information right there. You see that. This is a small Bible. They make it in thin line. They make it in giant print. They make it in King James as well. They make this exact format in King James, but this is a KJVER. Easy reader for those of us who would struggle with that. All in all, I haven't used this Bible a whole lot, but I have used it enough to say that I've appreciated the translation, and even considered using it more regularly, because anything that you're not going to understand in the King James is clearly defined with words at the end of the verse. I don't know if you can see that or not, but at the end of the verse you can see it has a little word there discussing that. So there's that one. So the KJVER, and then we'll discuss some obvious options that you have here is the New King James. Published in 1982, I think updated in 1984 with their final edition, which is what we have today. Some people who have 82 might read a little differently, but the 84 edition and forward I think is all the same. So New King James used this for years. Good translation. They break away from the TR in a couple locations, not really a whole lot, but they do identify where the differences are. And the translation philosophy of it, though literal, is a little bit different than what would be considered traditional translation philosophy. So it's a little more modern reading. At the same time, it's based off Textus Receptus. Now the Old Testament's pretty much in line with the modern Bibles. They still followed much of the modern translation theories, or not translation theories. They followed much of the modern manuscript evidence in the Old Testament, but it's very minor compared to the King James. What I like about this is it does retain some of the things, like King James put our words in italics to help clarify things in the Hebrew that went in the English, and this New King James still did that. There's evidences of this, where the ESV has removed those words and it's made it less clear. That's one of the critiques of ESV and even the modern English version followed suit with that. But this is the New King James, and it's clearly widely available. Thomas Nelson published it. I think Holman publishes a version of it. I used it for years. I really like the translation, but it's more modern. It's going to read, but it has some older language, and like brethren, and some other older ways of saying things that will be familiar to King James users. But there's that one. And then I want to talk to you about this one. This is the modern English version. If you want, you can find my modern English version. I think it's called Why I Use the MEV translation of the Bible, modern English version. And this is it right here. This is the giant print. This is the most modern translation of the Textus Receptus Masoretic text. Now, I'm just going to tell you now, this does break from the Textus Receptus in a few occasions. Acts 1 does, John 1 does, Galatians 5 does in a couple places, and all that. The changes aren't significant in my mind, but that does break, so just prepare for that. I'm actually going through a series with my church over the book of Mark, and where he's talking about Herod, and it says that Herod did many things in the King James and New King James. This says, and Herod was perplexed. So it broke away from the TR there too. All in all, great translation. If you're into, like, if you say, you know what, I would read the ESV, I just can't support the manuscripts, this is your Bible. This really is. This is the most modern vernacular. This is the one that's going to put it in a very clear way for people to understand, and it's very good. Even if you use the King James, they actually published this Bible to help people understand the King James better. The Military Bible Press put this Bible together for people to help them understand their King James better. Obviously, good Bible. I use it in our church. Been using it for a couple years now. Look forward to using it in years to come. So I just want to share with that. And then I want to share with you this one. This is an interlinear Bible, the Hebrew, Greek, English interlinear by J.P. Green. And it includes his version of the updated translation of the King James. And so it's, I think in the Old Testament, it says the LITV, which is the literal version. See what it says here? I don't see it here. But I believe it's the LITV, and then I think the New Testament is the KJV2. The KJV2, because he updated it as well. And I'm not seeing anything here about that. But I think that's what they label it. But it's actually J.P. Green's translation of the Bible with the Hebrew interlinear. And I was exhorted by an independent fundamental soul one in 1611 Baptist to get this. And this has actually been a tremendous blessing. You can see it right there. So this is an optional for your study. I think it comes in a 4-volume set, or you can buy like this one, which is one large volume. Tremendous set. I would encourage you to buy it at christianbook.com. It's like half price of what you're going to get it in the stores. Anyway, used it, loved it. I'm going to give you one last option to kind of finish the video with. This is the scriptures version. And it's published by Messianic Jews in South Africa. I'll give you a look at it. And this is kind of weird. I read it through just because I was interested. And I'm going to be honest with you. I liked it because it challenged my vocabulary. I liked it because it's mainly a TR translation, but they did break from the TR. You're going to find places where they did not follow the TR of this New Testament, but most of it's still there, I would say. I read this through a few years ago. It retains the name of Jehovah or Yahweh in the Old Testament in the Hebrew. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll show that to you. And then New Testament, it leaves Jesus' name in Hebrew, all clearly out of respect. There that is. And I liked it because things that we're used to translating a certain way, they change. Like instead of church, it's assembly. Instead of Egypt, it was the Misarim. And so anyway, they retained some of that language, which was kind of hard for me to get used to at first. But once I did, it was fine. It was fine. And in fact, I actually saw things that I missed in my other English translations because they translate different. So you want to see this different. I like it. It's a Institute of Scripture Research from them. I don't know if they still publish this or not. I like I said, I read through it and I enjoyed it. It was good for my studies. It's very well made. Paper's very well made. It says 2009 edition. Like I said, it's a well-made Bible from South Africa. And I just wanted to kind of finish off the video with that. Now, I know it's been a while since I've made a video. I'm bivocational and I'm a landscaper, so I don't always have a whole lot of time on my plate to do videos and stuff. So that's why this is late. I just wanted to go over this thing with you real quick. And to kind of tell you about the different options you have as translations. The goal of the ministry, bivocational ministry, is to help aid bivocational ministers. Now, this is not just pastors. This can be evangelists. This could be whoever, however you're serving God. The ministry is there for it. But we do have a section that's for pastors that help pastors work through some of the difficulties and how bivocational ministry might be an option for you. And so go there, bivocationalministry.wordpress.com. And I think you'll be blessed by what you find there. Like, comment, subscribe below, and have a great day.